It's Shaybs, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 2nd of January to the 8th of January. Alright, first for a video that I gotta be honest, every time I do this, and not good, it's always very defeated. I always feel like I'm giving up. It's like, oh, I tried. Like, it's, you know, an L. Because it is my L for not, like, fully enjoying this. Although I will say, there was one upside to it, I will admit. This is the first time I think I'm covering a video from Retcon 404. This was recommended to me as a 45-minute video on Guyver. I'm like, oh, wow, all right, cool. I'm not too familiar with Guyver, but I've always been interested in it, of course. Retrospective, kind of, I'm expecting maybe on something like Kaiser Beam level. But I haven't checked out his stuff. I've been subscribed for a while, but never really, his stuff just didn't catch my eye or anything. And his other stuff, like throughout his channel, seems he really got popular from Gundam. Like he did a retrospective of Gundam and then Zeta Gundam, and he's pretty much covered all the major entries, it seems. Very thorough, and now he's just kind of expanding onto other series, I guess. And this is just covering the first OVA, and yeah, it's here because I just wanted to give the, like, I don't necessarily appreciate that it's a retrospective and it's 45 minutes of plot recap. He's describing the entire OVA, literally going beat by beat. I think it's like an 8-episode OVA or something like that. It's a couple episodes. He doesn't delineate episode by episode. It's not that transparently a recap thing. But the only reason I ended up sitting through all of it was because I was like, well, I had my drawing tablet and I needed to take some time to like finish this design thing that I was doing. So I'm like, and it's kind of like repetitive, monotonous sort of work that I was doing. So I'm like, yeah, I'll have it on while it goes. So it was serviceable for that, I will say that. And it is nice to have something like that in the background, but on like the level of like a podcast or something. But it's just weird to me that it's like, oh, just summarizing. I have to see how many episodes it is. It's 6. It's 6 episodes. So summarizing 6 episodes in 45 minutes or so is transformative. Yes, it certainly is. I think there's probably more utility to what he does here than if he was doing this with Gundam. I don't necessarily know if that's what he's doing with Gundam or Double Zeta or Victory or the myriad of stuff of other anime that he's done this with. Just summarizing the whole thing with accompanying visuals that, like, the only kind of visuals he's showing here is from the OVA, but he shifts them over to the left, right, or like rotates them and puts them in the corner or something like that. Like, because I guess that's just how he gets away with content from Content ID. But it's like, I just think that like it's technically transformative, but you really are kind of supplanting the work when you do this. Like, people can watch this video and then never watch the original. So, like, in terms of it being fair use, I find that to be kind of like, you know, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think I would the judge, jury of all that. It's just from my perspective, like, this being a subplan, like, oh, wow, I could just watch this video instead of watching the anime and then form my own opinion about it. You know what I mean? Like, he's not encouraging that necessarily in the video itself, but, like, I feel like that's a function or utility that this video could do. It's like, and he does scatter it a little bit with things that he appreciates or doesn't appreciate in various places and stuff, but there's no wider, broader idea or, you know, deeper thing that you couldn't just get from it itself besides it's like, I liked that or whatever. And, like, don't get me wrong, I like some, you know, that's the best part of this video is just anything that's coming from Retcon's perspective here, but I don't get that much other than that because it's like little stray things, and the video probably could have been 3 minutes if it was condensed to just that actually additive stuff that was like from his perspective. But 3 minutes is not going to get ad revenue, right? Or a watch time that YouTube likes because YouTube wants you to be on the platform more, that he's clearly had good success with. All the videos that he's done this with have very good views. It's what the audience wants to see. And so who am I to judge that? I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't kind of agree with the approach here. I guess. I think I kind of I said, when you're doing this if you do this for a 50 episode show, that's probably a lot more transformative because you're going over major beats and stuff like that. But this is like reading a Wikipedia in video form. Do you know what I mean? It feels like that a lot. Yeah, I just think that like anything to do with the production or background, like he clearly sounds like he's dabbled into the manga or has peeked into it. And I think he says at one point like none of the adaptations have a full story or anything like that. If that was if it was also the Guyver Bio Boosted Armor, right? It feels like that's maybe a full franchise retrospective. And 45 minutes for a full franchise retrospective for something like Guyver, I don't know exactly how many movies and stuff that it has, but that seems reasonable, right? But no, this is just a summary of the 6-episode OVA. You know, it's literally almost beat for beat. Like he doesn't like describe the fights in detail, but then maybe that's why it doesn't, that only takes 45 minutes to summarize 6 episodes or whatever. Okay, I don't know, but like nothing to do with production or the history or any thematic stuff. The most he gets is maybe like the commentary on bio horror, like on body horror stuff. But he's not citing different examples. He's not being. He's just like, it's like The Thing. The Thing is body horror. That's what body horror is. Anyway, back to summarizing Guyver. That's kind of the extent of it. But it's not like, I don't know. You could go deeper into a particular fight scene and be like, this is a great example of body horror. Instead of showing you this, it does this, or just analyzing a scene, any scene. would be something additive to this, right? Like I don't mind you going beat for beat in an entire OVA, but he really is just describing it. I'm like, man, that's all it is. Oh well, it's not a big deal, right? It's not the worst thing ever. It's not like this video's trash or something. No, like I said, it was fine enough listening material, and I'll also say like he's cutting away manipulating the footage in a way that's just like shifting it over in places instead of just like cutting really precisely or additively to make it an actual visual immersive experience, and then also cutting away to his face, like kind of talking like this on camera and stuff, which is all fine. That's again, I think those moments work good because, and I've said this in other digests, that like having the person on screen and talking to you, I think is just makes for a better viewing experience oftentimes. It just depends on what you use it for, and it was fine. Yeah, I just had to comment on this because it just I don't know if bothered me is the word. I just this like it's a good time as any to kind of talk about like yeah, in the year 2024, these videos are still being made and still doing fairly well, all things considered. Okay, now for some videos that I thought were decent. They're pretty good. Well, good I don't know. I don't know if I don't want to give this a not good, right? But I guess it should give maybe that's what I did in previous digest. I just be like, didn't even give this a rating, and would give it like a feature in digest. But this is the first one from Canipa Effect that he is ending it, kind of. He's really just ensuring his audience, he's closing his Patreon, not making this a real regular thing. It's not an active channel anymore. He's still gonna maybe make a video if he has the idea, but the core reason that he cites that I think really stuck with me was that he would get an idea, and then by the time he even gets a chance to start it, he does not care about it nearly as much as what he did the moment when he thought of the idea. I have no idea how much that happens to me. Oh my gosh. I think it has to happen. It has to have happened to like every YouTuber. It has to have. That's such a common thing. And by the time you make the video, you barely care about the thing as we did when you were initially writing it or initially got the idea. And that's really tough because it's like, yeah, for me, I have to constantly be enriching or juicing up my own enthusiasm for a project. Is a lot of endurance in going in some of these big projects, like reading the entire encyclopedia for 2 years. The only real reason I was able to do that was because I had kind of a ritual to it, and I had a chat that was there, and we bounced off of each other, and it was a fun time. and experience and stuff, and then yeah, the making of it kind of enriches it from there. But that's a long ass idea that like, and I understand that it's an increasingly lonely and isolating experience. But I think Canipa does make allusions in this video that's unscripted to Tom Scott, where he's like, no, I'm not gonna fly off into the sunset on a whatever. But I appreciate that he makes the connection and not me, because I would have otherwise. Where I think starting with Tom, there's just multiple YouTubers, and it's not like you were following his example or anything. It's because you've been planning this for months, sort of deal. And it's certainly other YouTubers probably the case too. I think it's just like the new year allows people, like a lot of YouTubers from 2014, this is a 10 year and stuff, and people like, that's a good time to stop. I just noticed a lot of creators are either soft retiring, like Canipa is here, and like Tom is, moving on altogether. I don't know. I can't name a ton of names or anything like that, but it just seems like a pattern. It feels like. And I just want to make a mention of it because, like, yeah, it is, I think we're going to see more of this maybe throughout this year and definitely in the coming years, where YouTube really exponentially grew in about 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17. A lot of us started around there, including myself. And when it comes to 10 years after that, a lot of us started when we were like, maybe 18 or maybe in our early to mid 20s. So by the time we do 10 years, what's that? Late 20s, early 30s. And from there, it is only a handful of people that can still do that. By that time, they've found their careers, they've married, they have a whole house, just like Canipa here. They have a whole thing. And Tom mentions this. You either have two choices. You either hire people and just build the thing out and make a whole thing out of it, and you become a manager more than you become a creator, or you take a step back, reduce it more to your hobby and everything like that. I know definitely like there's the YouTubers that have survived really have been the ones that have made it more of a reliable routine, or have taken a step back for a while and now have come back. Like you think about Smosh. They've not been doing this, they've not been doing the same skits for 15 plus years, or maybe even close to 20 at this point. They did skits for a while and then they broke up. And it was only this year that they had like almost like a 5 or 6 year hiatus, and then they finally cut back. So things like that could still happen. But it is really interesting. And I'm just seeing more YouTubers feeling the grind and the churn. I certainly feel it. But it's a matter of just like having the ideas and just being. I've said this about other YouTubers because I've covered them elsewhere in Digest, but I guess it just felt more predominant with just how many people it feels like people are doing it now. It's only just it's like you just have to find the thing that you're feeling happy with, and I always appreciate the honesty, transparency, the willingness, because a lot of people just trails off and they never upload again. Or like Canipa says, they have a trail of update videos and that's it. It's like it kind of run aground and everything. It's really unfortunate. I've certainly felt that or come close to that sort of period in ways. But don't know. It is just like you're just hoping that people are happy in the current place and that it's not like spiraling out or something, or or just something worse, I guess. It's just great to see that this sort of thing led him to so many opportunities, and now he's like a localizer, which is really great to see. And I'm looking forward to when the NDAs are released, if they do get released, that he's able to take some credit for the things that he's working on right now. I know how that feels, of working on things in the industry that you can't necessarily talk about until they're out, and then by that time, like, it's been like a few months since like you worked on it and you're like, yeah, I did that, I worked on that. I have the same kind of lukewarm feeling, I guess. But I think this is a great approach. I think this is a good way to go about it. I must say, thank you so much for making the videos you did make, for being in our community, for progressing other people's careers. I saw like one of the top comments on this video is just like, dude, you literally inspired me to become an animator, and now I've like worked for like all these studios. You know, like that's incredible. That sort of impact that's invisible. You never know what lives this sort of thing will touch. And your videos are still there, you know, and they'll still be gaining attention, inspiring people, informing people, making them think, exciting them. Yeah, and it's just nice that like you were able to have this kind of send off so that people can kind of relish in your career. Not that it's over necessarily. I think it's just beginning. It's just taking on a different form, you know. It's just evolving. Just being in the industry itself, I think it's just really encouraging to see. Yeah. Best of luck with your current endeavor of bringing these incredible stories, whether that be video games or light novels or manga or anime, to us in the best quality possible. Joining the fight, you know, joining the shitstorm, I guess. But yeah, and all of that, much appreciated for your work here and in the future. Thank you so much. Puff the Pirate had a Luffy character design video. The brilliance of the character design. Yeah. And he ended up structuring it a lot just of like the different forms, because Luffy changes his physical appearance a lot with the power-ups that he gets. So it's analyzing those parts a lot more. It doesn't go into a lot of super nitty-gritty detail, I think. It's not really talking so much about the way Oda draws eyes or hair or mouths. It's more of just like Luffy's design in context of the rest of the series, where like he has these arms and the things that he wears and things like that. More distinguishing characteristics. It's not as granular as I'd be interested in, but that's fine. I think the format and the structure of the video worked well enough that you were able to kind of go beat by beat and kind of seeing the progression throughout the story almost. And I appreciated the sheer amount of editing occurring with the manga itself here. It was such a massive series like One Piece. In my experience so far, with the few videos that I've been able to stomach or try to stomach with One Piece videos, just because like I don't know if I've mentioned it with your videos. I did cover your Novid a while back, but that I don't remember like, you know, my context or my relationship with One Piece at that time. It's become such a dear series to me that it's one of those things where I get a little defensive almost, or get a little pearl clutchy about the way you're presenting the story, because I can understand the sheer intimidating factor of trying to show visuals for this show when there's over 1,000 episodes or over 1,000 chapters. What do you show and in what capacity? And just sifting through 1,000 times 20 pages, possible pages, to what do you possibly show, right? A lot of people stick with just the color spreads, or they just go with the anime because it's easier like that. And all those approaches I think are fine, but it takes a special kind of crazy to do the kind of editing you're doing, even if it's not like, you know, I'm animating it or something like that. It's not like extreme. It's simply the amount that you're showing and the choices and stuff. I wasn't a manga reader. I've read up to volume 9 or 10, 9 really, and haven't read the rest of it. But I've watched the entire anime, so I'm more familiar with how these events are depicted in the anime. So a lot of the spreads that you're showing were kind of new to me, and impressive in that way. There's not a lot of like generic standard like obvious choices in terms of what to show with Luffy and stuff, because a lot of people, you know, fall back on the same 5 or 10 shots of him, right? So I think the sheer variety you were showing here was really nice and impressive. I like that there wasn't too many in the way of spoilers with when you were showing the Gear 5 you weren't going so far into like Egghead and stuff like that. It was really just his appearance with Kaido. That was smart. Yeah, I thought this was pretty neat. I certainly liked this, and would be open to doing this for other characters. And I would be interested if you run into a challenge where all you really have for some characters is pre-time skip and post-time skip designs, and you don't have as much in the way of this very neat delineated form change structure. Trying to, and I'm not even trying to look at like this relates to their characterization or something like that. I think more in terms of like the real granular, going deeper into the kind of the type of hair that they have, or whatever like that. A lot of the different choices, because I'm realizing, because I started drawing with this drawing tablet I got for Christmas, and been starting to draw some characters. Fan art almost. It's more like my interpretation of, it's so cringe, of some characters. I'm not ready to share yet. Public, whatever. But when I'm doing that, I realize I'm like, okay, what is the nose like? Is it like this? It's like this. Like you're trying different noses. You're trying different mouths. You're trying different eyes and stuff like that. And it's there's a lot of small granular choices, I think, and I think you can dig even deeper with this sort of concept. I don't know how much interest you have in it or whatever. Yeah, and again, it's not even to think about like deeper into their characterization or something, of course, extrapolating grand thematic things about themselves. It's really just like what makes this character so appealing and very effective, and I just love looking at them. You know what I mean? I think that's a sign of a good character design, right? Anyway, I enjoyed the video though. It was good. I did catch the APLattanzi video after the fact, and I was like, I didn't catch it because he had popped up on my stream, and I was like, I gotta go back and check that out. My humble Laserdisc collection. It's small. It's a couple. It's like how many was it? Like 8 or 9, something like that. But he goes into sufficient detail about each one and what he appreciates about them. There's for some movies that he hasn't even seen yet, it seems, at least. He was like, I was hearing a lot about this one and can't wait to get to it, or whatever. So that was really nice. And it was in the format of just one unbroken, like didn't have any edits or cuts or anything like that, of just top-down perspective, like if like drawing how-to thing or whatever. Just putting the Laserdisc cover on and just kind of opening it, turning around, and describing certain things. He doesn't you don't go so far as to like zoom in the camera so much, or bring the Laserdisc up close to like really get a lot of the detail, or talk about the text or anything like that. I think it was more of just your purchasing history with it, what you know about the film, and yeah, describing the certain qualities of it, and obviously just celebrating the idea of having this sort of collection, shouting out some other creators that got you into it a lot, opening the possibilities to what these sorts of releases could have in contrast to what we might get or just don't get today, I think, as you eloquently put it. I really like how old your collection is, not in terms of like, oh, it's all Laserdisc. Yeah, they're all old. At least it's a dead format. No, I just the span of how old some of the movies are, like Time Machine, or like there's several movies I'd never even heard of, and that's honestly, if you guys still don't know of APLattanzi, I think he's definitely a channel to watch and check out some of the backlog as well, because there's just some movies that look gorgeous that's like I've never heard of. And you really like it. You're cinephile. I don't know if you'd characterize yourself that way, but your enthusiasm really gets me into it too, as someone who's predominantly more into like anime and TV series and stuff like that. Just like the movies, and crafting them in that way, and just having them as all one big thing and a multifaceted experience. Because I guess I've kind of been brainwashed almost in terms of like, movies being inherently shorter. It inherently just makes them like lesser experiences almost, because the TV series has more length to tell or whatever. But obviously that's not true. That's far from the truth, especially even considering my favorite movies and stuff, and everything like that. They are their whole their whole world and stuff like that, and the whole production behind them, and they're long. If you were to equate them into episodes, they're about 6 or 7, for some of them like 8 or so, which is not nothing. It's certainly not like one 20-minute episode or anything. Anyway, and it's just like, and of course the old stuff like live action and everything, all of that was just so fascinating to see, and I really appreciate you sharing that. No matter how like sparse it was just like a couple of them, you were able to fill it out pretty adequately with detail about each one, and didn't spend there was one I forget that you showed. It didn't spend all that much time on because it was like, oh, the 2001: A Space Odyssey or whatever. It was just like, yeah, this is the version of it and everything. This is where I got it from, and yeah. But like everyone knows, if like the vibe of like, you didn't say this, but is the vibe. Oh well, Space Odyssey. Let me show you this other the Alamo. What is this? It's John Wayne, and where's the John Wayne? Yeah. But just going more into detail about that, and not even just describing them of what the movies are about. Just more of just the vibes that you get from them, and this release in particular, the feelings it evokes. Yeah, it was just like a lot of good time. Really, really comfy vibes. I enjoyed it. All right, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week. The ones where I thought were the best videos of the week. And even though, I'm a little biased, once again, I am plugging myself. 3 weeks in a row, baby. I think it was, it's been like, I think it's, yeah. But on this very channel, you may have seen it, I started a new stream series. This is the first installment, so catch up now, if you so please. I know it's over 3.5 hours, but it's time coded. It is time stamped if you were curious, and just click through and everything. Although it's just numbered. It's like number 1. It's like, wait, what? All right, so yeah, dub versus sub, line by line. I am awful with names. I should not. YouTube is such a bad profession for me because I have to title YouTube videos, and I suck at naming things and titling things. It's the worst. But this is comparing every line of the Nausicaa dub to the Nausicaa sub. The translation, yes. Even though it's multiple translations and it's the Japanese script. So I like to say that I am comparing the dub script to the Japanese script, despite not fully knowing Japanese. Because I do feel like I've listened to enough Japanese and have the whole script and multiple translations of it to really get a firm understanding, like, yes, this is exactly what they're saying, and the tone of what they're saying, and the context of what they're saying. Because in this format of the way I'm showing it on stream, I can't show you the first 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 minutes before that culminates in the line that I'm showing. Like, well, what's the context of this line? Well, we're going line by line. I literally start at the beginning of the movie and just go through it like that. And it's at this point in the movie, this is all you know. And this is that sort of thing. It's as granular of an analysis as you could get. And maybe it could be even granular, just be going word by word, but that's stupid. That's a little excessive. Maybe even this is a little excessive. I don't know. But I've always wanted to see a project like this, or a dub versus sub comparison where you go line by line and quantitatively prove which one is better. I've spoiled it on Twitter, but I won't fully spoil what the results are so far. I just basically covered the first 16 minutes of the movie in this amount of time. More or less. Didn't take too many breaks in the way. It was actually pretty packed, and we were very focused, I think. I really liked doing it. The format's good. It thankfully hasn't been strucken down at the moment. It's going pretty well, I think. And it won't be too many streams. It should be about 15 minutes of the movie per stream, and it's only a 2-hour movie. So it's about 8 streams, give or take. So, yeah. That's what's going on. At least it is of one major project. Yay! I enjoyed both videos that Bob put out this week that were just on camera and talking off the cuff. But I'll link the disposition for positive anime reviews because it's something I wholly agree with. I agree with it. Therefore, it is good. Yeah, yeah. This is a subjective, this is a subjective review. Of course. If I agree with it, then yeah. But maybe if I don't agree with it, and I still like it. Maybe. Um, yeah. But like his reasoning and yeah, I just would talk about both things that he talked about here. Talking about his plans for 2024 and being a little more breaking the formula a little bit with his videos and having them be less functional and more something only he could make and unformalistic, I guess. Even though I think that structure is really important and leading to a good success. Not like viral, crazy YouTube, whatever, but that's because you're covering stuff that is not capturing the cultural zeitgeist. And that's a good thing, I think, because plenty of people are trying to do that. And, only so many people who have already built their success maybe early or had a good twist of fate or whatever, they get to do that. But this other stuff where people might not have any idea of where to start with some of these franchises or have never heard of some of these things, and your disposition towards being constructive and positive, not avoiding negativity altogether, but being conscious of what you're saying being additive or not. Because you talk about like the certain things where you're like the characters suck. It's like, okay, like what do I do with that, right? Versus talk about something constructive and like the characters were underdeveloped for the thing they were trying to do. They were trying to get to this point, and this is the amount that they did, and I think that's inadequate because XYZ. That's giving a certain amount of nuance, analysis. You haven't been doing too much that in the way of analysis necessarily in your videos, and that's fine. I'm not necessarily looking for that. I think the kind of reporting on a fire, like I think Gene Siskel likened what he did as a reviewer to being a news reporter covering a fire and describing what happened and this is what happened to me and everything. And that sort of approach I think is very helpful and can be entertaining in its own right. Yeah, so I think your format's great, and I think what you're suggesting is maybe trying to go in that next step, being a little more informal so that you don't get choked up on these kind of albatross projects that take forever because you have these incredibly high standards for yourself, that sort of thing, which I'm definitely with you there. I think I've told you about that. My solution at the moment that I'm going to be trying a little bit more because I experimented with it last year and I think it came out really well, was taking a song, was basically kind of like the stuff I do with AMVs. AMVs are dictated by AMV's length is dictated by the song that you choose or the amount that you're choosing to make an AMV out of. It's all the audio. Whereas reviews or analysis and other stuff like that, it's limited by nothing really. It's your word count, and unless you were like make a hard stop, I must only write 8 pages or something of this font or this length or whatever, this many words. Like you have to cap it. You could do that sort of cap, and good luck. Like resisting that urge, especially if you've got pushed way past that before. Once you've kind of I think this reflects in your videos when you make these big beginner guides that are so comprehensive, you naturally want to apply that exact same rigor to your other projects, and not out of a YouTube will punish me if I regress, even though there's maybe some truth to that in a way. It's obviously like when YouTube rewards you with success, they want you to replicate it so that they get rewarded as well. But it's also a human instinct, right? Where you had so much fulfillment and so much effectiveness out of this one approach, you naturally want to do it again. And if that is correlated with something like rigor or length or effort or time, I spent 2,000. It's the I think Matt Pack talked about it. The bigification. I don't even know the term he gave it for, but it's just extreme because he's like, if you trap yourself in I ate every burger at this restaurant. I ate every burger at every restaurant. I ate every burger at every restaurant in every state. I ate every burger in every restaurant in every state in the whole country. I ate every burger. Like, you can't stop. It just keeps going until it's ridiculous. You know, I spent this many days, this many days, this many days. YouTube is such a huge problem, and for us, for soft analysis or review style, that's just depth of the amount that we're putting into each video. So it's like it's trying to find a limiter where you can only talk about it for so long before it's like not worth it. So like in my instance here, I'm gonna stop talking about your video once I run out of things to say. I don't know when that is, but it won't be like forever, and then I turn the camera off and that's it. Like we said, like unscripted is kind of an advantage to that. So when it's unscripted, when you're done, that's the length, and you're like, I can't think of anything else to say. All right, that's it, and sometimes they go overboard, some people, it's streams or whatever, but for the most part, yeah, that's kind of how that would work. But yeah, for me, I'm going to try making it the length of the song. So I shoot for a video essay, and I'm working on a video essay this month. It's the length of a song, and maybe I'll add a little joke here and there that maybe breaks up the song in one place or something like that. But for the most part, it's like limited by that, and so the script is limited to that song. And that actually meant for this essay I'm working on now, I actually had to add more than I was thinking, or like I kind of have to progress the script the way the song progresses itself. So I'm like, I only have this amount of time to talk about this point before I move on to this point. And it's a really weird and interesting way to make a video for me, I think. And it makes it very succinct and but challenging, but very fulfilling and just very satisfying. I think it's fire. Not to plug myself, sorry. But yeah, you just find those things that now that you've made so many of these, you can find limiters, or you can find little aspects and stuff that in refining your process, so that you can continue to enjoy it, so that you can continue to make these videos and not run aground or find something else to do, as we do. But if you do, that's fine. Anyway, I appreciated the update a lot, answering my question I gave. This video about disposition for positive reviews, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a good 2024. So apparently, I live under a rock. I had never heard of this channel, The First Take, before, but they cover all sorts of music artists, and I think the concept of this is they just walk up and they just perform the song in one take, ostensibly. They do have a trailer video, but I didn't watch that one. I was just obsessed with just finding this channel and being like, ooh, a performance from Rika Matsumoto performing the Pokemon theme song? Like, are you kidding? Like, fuck yeah. And it just has this candidness to it, this candor of, just walking up to the mic and doing it in one go. I think that's just really cool. And obviously the one I'm highlighting is the one that I found this channel out about. I had no idea of, the Sasuke YouTube, and just having this incredibly big channel that you never hear about. But it's Hiroshi Kitadani performing We Are, the first One Piece OP, who is the same performer who has done the New World OP, We Go, I believe, Over the Top from Wano, and just recently, it's awesome. But I remember initially, like, when this was revealed that he was doing the new OP, everyone translated it as It's just great. I'm never gonna not think of it that way, but it is awesome. But he doesn't perform mostly. He performs We Are in this video, and it was just so delightful seeing him perform. There's probably obviously been other videos of him doing it over the years. I've just never seen it, and so it's the first time I'm seeing him perform any of his OPs and stuff. If I'm not mistaken, He is a part of Jam Project, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, man, the master, like definitely one of the best performers of anime opening themes that we have, and the fact that he's still doing it, that he's done 4 for One Piece, and at the 4 kind of the biggest points, that it's just perfect. It's just perfect. He does the first one. He does the first one after the time skip. He does over the top with the first one of Wano, and Wano is, I think, the start is really important for Toei's One Piece, because it really is a new leaf in production wise, and also a culmination of everything that they've been working on since the beginning of that time skip, and the longest arc period. It's over 200. I think it's over 200 episodes. It could be like 199 or something, but I think it's over 200, which is easily the longest in terms of episode count. And now he's done the 4th one that starts the final saga. This is it, final saga Oda, and starting with it in the OP itself. Gotta be kidding me. Yeah, well, I hope Ishitani is not forever stuck doing OPs now. I hope not. I hope she does at least one more episode. I don't know which one she would do. I can understand having not done another episode since 10:15, because how the hell do you top that? I do not envy her at all, be as a creative, as someone like that, and then like just finding these outlets by doing these music videos, these eye catches, and these little promo things for Film Red, and now the two OPs in a row, which is this unbelievable fortune, really like a blessing, and to be able to make an OP set to a song by Hiroshi Kitadani. Well, at least Kitadani is performing it. Like, that is an opportunity you almost never ever get. So she and Keisuke Mori, I believe is his name, the animation director, and then I believe there was another production assist, the producer, I believe. She also kind of, it's like the 3 of them basically. Not to mention the countless animators that helped Ichitani and Mori with that. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, there's more about the OP. The one take video, the first take, this video, all of them are pretty set very similarly, where every instrumental that is featured in the video, and in this case it's the brass section, the lead performer Kitadani, the drums, the piano, and I think there was a guitar. Yeah, there's definitely a guitar, because there's like a guitar solo in the middle. I think that, and there's a violin too. So like every instrument has its own camera shot, and then Kitadani has 2 camera shots, like a more wide that he's performing, and there's like a little nice decorative thing in the side, and then there's a closer shot, and it's tilted a bit so you can see his face a bit more. And he's great. He's a great performer, not just as a singer, but just performing to a camera. Really having these great hand motions and pointing and signaling to the camera and stuff, one piece and everything. Like, man, what a talented guy. Man. And obviously, he's also incredibly professional, to the point of like not saying anything. Like the first take, I watched Rika Matsumoto, and I really appreciated the candor at the beginning and end, where she's like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, like, hey, yeah, whatever. And at the end, she was like, Tanoshikata, like, that was, all that. There's a little more candor at the beginning and end to show that it was really done in one take, sort of deal. But Kitadani, stone cold. Not like standoffish or anything. He's just like, doesn't say anything, just motion, kind of like doesn't really signal it that much, but just performs incredibly animated, so charismatic on the camera and in his performance. And then when it's done, he doesn't do anything, say anything, react at all. That's it. He's incredibly professional in that way. Not that the other stuff was unprofessional. I guess it's something I noticed is like the vulnerability. He's not willing to let that, like, I don't know. It's firm, I guess, which is very impressive. Anyway, yeah, I love this performance. Of course, it's fucking We Are, which I was when we're reflecting on it, right? We're thinking of all the best One Piece OPs. There's people with more nostalgia for some and others and stuff. I think for me, this new one, Osu, is definitely like top 3, if not top 2. It is only not beaten by We Are. I really like Shining Running Forever. I forget the name of it, but it's like 15, I think. It's during Dressrosa. I just like that one because it's one of the first. That one I have nostalgia for. But construction-wise, I can kind of understand why that one doesn't. This one's just far more impressive, Osu. But it doesn't quite beat We Are, only because of not just being the first, it's such a first impression. It is the first thing you see when you click episode 1. That is so important. Osu would not be as good as it is if it wasn't for the culmination of 25 years of work that Toei put in, that Oda put in. It's a culmination of a lot of things, even if it's not necessarily celebrating. It's not like a big thing or whatever. There's a reason they remade We Are for episode 1000 and not any other OP. Not just because it's episode 1 or whatever, but it's the one everyone associates it with, and it set the right tone that led it to be the legend that it is, the series to grow to the point that where it is. I love the ED too, for the record. Anyway, Kidadani is a monster. How does he hit those notes? Holy shit! I love this performance. A new channel I've followed, and I'll probably check out a lot of their backlog. It's great. I would hit a watch later on this video by Cvit. Yeah, because it's Joe. Are you kidding? But then I was going to start it, and it was like incomplete, where he's like, I'm still working on the first half, which is more about Joe and Rocky. Not Joe, Ippo and Rocky and some other boxing stuff. But this one, for him, was so important for him to put out, and very personal. Very emotionally stirring for him, that he's just like, I gotta have this part. This is the half that he started first, and it's not quite finished with the music and things like that. Although I didn't fully feel that way the entire time. I felt it was pretty well formed. It's definitely good enough to release on its own. But I did have hesitation in that way in covering it here on Digest, because it's not the full thing, right? But at the end, I still wanted to at the end of the day, because I'd be worried if I miss it, the full thing, if I just happen to not catch it or whatever the week that it does come out. Second, I don't have that many videos for Digest, because I had just enough if I include it, so I was like, I should still probably. And it's just like that it really doesn't feel incomplete, because I feel like, aside from the very beginning where you can tell that he's like in the middle of the thought or whatever, or kind of there was some build up that was missing. The rest of it really is just talking about like the dark side of an endeavor. I wouldn't even say creative endeavor, because boxing not inherently creative in that regard. But he's tapping into that core aspect of Joe that is really emotionally stirring. About masculinity, about human achievement, why we do things at all. I think I had a little more optimistic reading of it personally than I guess he did. Even though like he still fell in love with it and still loves it in that regard. I think he kind of frames it very similar to a lot of the I think YouTubers that have covered Joe in the past, where it's like, whoa, you can get punch drunk and die. I don't know. I felt a little. It felt a little cliche. A little bit. The reading felt a bit like that, and that's okay. Um, but obviously, I'm still very glad and grateful that he went along with it, and talking about and incorporating some good stuff with Rocky and the Rocky films. Not so much with Ippo. I guess the Ippo really was regulated to the fun part and the first thing, and that the contrast is definitely right. My second video I made on my channel was Ippo and Joe, and the tones being so different and everything. But yeah, I will say with the craft of the video itself, it's good. But I noticed that like it was interesting how it was really just Joe 2 that he showed. I get that, like, obviously, like the script pretty much fit that, it pretty much worked well enough with that, that he doesn't have to mention a lot of the initial stuff in Joe 1, but I feel like a lot of the points that he was making could be related to Joe 1 a lot more, but it really felt like he was exclusively talking about 2, and I had a vibe. There was one shot of Joe 1 that he did use, and that was like a spoilery type of shot, and I was like, okay, so there's something. But I had the concern that like he didn't want to use it because it looked too old. I don't want to like make that like an assumption or anything like that. But that's just what the vibes I was getting, and I think it feels like that I've seen other YouTubers do that too, where they really only talk about Joe 2 or show Joe 2 footage, and they don't seem to incorporate the entire story. When 2 is the second half, 2 is not the full story. It's just not. It's like, what are we doing? And it just popped in my head, so I didn't want to say it before I forget it. One bit of the analysis that I was like, you're not kind of giving the full story here, because I'm pretty sure he doesn't address this, but he says he cites how I don't remember the context he brought this up, but he was talking about how Wolf, after he has his in the anime. Which is true. It's an anime original edition. In the anime, Wolf is seen again. Well, in the manga at least, this is the case, where after Joe beats him, he joins the Yakuza and everything. And then in an anime original episode, he asks Joe for money, assuming that it'll help. It's kind of like as a donation for the boxing gym that Wolf works at. And it turns out Wolf doesn't work there, and he just kind of suckered Joe for money and stuff. And Cvit brings that up for a particular reason of kind of the dark side of boxing or masculine or something. He's to try to frame this narrative as it's like it's a dark tale that Joe is saying. He was like he's gonna die or whatever, right? But I feel like the analysis was lacking in a lot of the humanity and positive and hope and good feelings that the series is ultimately going for. I think it was another interesting point. Well, to finish my point about Wolf, he doesn't seem to remember or mention in the video that Wolf then later returns the money, and he just needed it at that time, and that's not a reversion. I think that's a good point to make, that he did deceive Joe and everything, but then he returned the money afterwards because he still created a positive impact on Joe's life. And I thought that was so, and I believe it's anime original as well, that all of this happens, and he's the one person that, because it's the night before he fights Jose. It's the night before, which is like one of the most important nights for a boxer, right? Like after I think the weigh-in happens the day before, like it's supposed to be like 24 hours before or something like that. I could be wrong about that. I think it is. So like all that stuff has already happened, and he's gonna fight tomorrow. But he wakes up at like 11 or 12 at night to Wolf returning the money, and he's like, oh my god, hey Wolf, let's go down and like hang out. And it's just the two of them. And they're talking at the bar and everything, and that was it. I just love that moment. I love it so much, and it's such a positive sort of thing. And obviously, we see Wolf at the end during Joe's fight with Jose. He's the one that celebrates. Oh man, it's still my all-time, guys. It's still my favorite anime. That he's the guy that's celebrating his cross counter when that's the thing that knocked him out. That's what ended his boxing career, and here he is, like, excited and celebrating over it. It's, I don't know. Fudge. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Cvit kind of skewed Joe a little bit to be a little more negative, I guess. I don't know, but obviously it's still a beautiful story. He's still very emotionally impacted by it. And it's in the best, really, because of just how much personal he gets about YouTube and how much it means to him, and how much he's failed at so many other aspects and creative things, and fearing that it's too late and this and that and the other way. All that's so relatable and so important. And even calling attention to his old videos where he's like, these garbage that I used to make but got me success anyway. I want to make the best possible thing, and I'm not going to stop until it drive for perfection or whatever. I do want to give, again, to kind of use Joe as the framing device here, as he does, when he says it's like he wants to make this Berserk video. That's like the best thing ever, the best Berserk video possible, right? And how much it means to him, and really the value of it, right? Yeah. Hell yeah. Looking forward to that. That's so cool. And the attitude is really great. But I do want to steer your attention that, like, perfection is not necessarily what Joe was going for. He only wanted to fight Jose. He never, with Jose in particular, it's weird. Like, he does declare it to Kim that he's like, I cannot lose to you. Because of Rikishi, I cannot lose to you. But he never says that to Jose. The same way he doesn't say that to Carlos, the same way he doesn't really say that to Rikishi. He never really cares about winning or losing when it comes to boxing. And it's reflected in the way, in the outcomes of those fights, which I won't spoil. That it doesn't make too much of a difference to him. So I think it's really the act of doing it, the choice, the autonomy that he has to do it despite what it will do to his body, despite what other people tell him, despite, everything else. The sheer act of doing it is what's important, and not how perfect it is. Everything has to go exactly, everything has to be, this obsession. You're right that Joe has an obsession, I think. But obsession for perfection, I think, is a different thing. Because that reminds me of Thief and the Cobbler. Thief and the Cobbler is if you're familiar, unfinished animated movie by one of the most talented animators in the United States in our history. And he tried, and he couldn't complete it. It's a cautionary tale, right? And YouTubers have that in spades all the time, because we are our own boss. We choose when to upload, when it's done, right? Unless there's a big team that's supporting, and you have to put the video. Unless it becomes a big industry, right? Then it's an actual pipeline. But when you're just a one-man crew, assumably like yourself, like me, you can do it as much as you want, and you can and make it as perfect and intricate and massive as you want. So, and that's not a bad thing. I think I don't want to discourage that, right? But I would encourage you that if we want to be like Joe and pursuing it with, and shining brilliantly until there's nothing left, and putting our all into something, I think that is perfection be damned. I think that is whatever happens type of deal. You just, as long as you're going into that ring without any regrets at all, and whatever happens, right? He can't help that he's thinking about Rikishi the entire time. He can't help that he kind of loses consciousness a ways into the fight and just kind of moves on his own. you know, and the choices he makes, as long as they're all his, you know, as long as you do it and it happens, and you don't have no regrets, no regrets. But yeah, this was just really encouraging to watch, and I'm happy you released it despite the incompleteness of it or whatever. Part of a larger video. I'm not sure if I'll cover that part. The other thing, because I feel like this would be what I'd want to cover, and I just would feel redundant at that point. I don't know. But yeah, very happy you made this. Looking forward to if you actually get to that Berserk video. It'd be pretty epic. And lastly, I do want to cover this. I think I'll put this as the best video of the week because I can't believe this was made. Animator Dormitory channel once again back. Key Animator Training Program 5. I assume that they've probably been doing this a few times. For some reason, this one caught my eye, and this is the one I'm covering. Even though, yeah, no, they've been doing this. They've been doing this multiple times actually. They started this 7 months ago with the same format. And they've been doing this a couple of times now. So I'm sorry if I'm like late to this process. I guess I was just so not. I was like, about like hour-long videos of like, I don't know, because a lot of it it goes over my head, a lot of the terminology and everything. But I don't know. At this time, I was like, yeah, you'll check it out. So this is just like, I think this is the format with everything else here. This is a whole hour that's fully translated. That's a conversation. It like seems like a real conversation between the director and this animator, Genga-chan. And then there's Ryuko, who's like the narrator and kind of the person who's like, when they occasionally pauses to explain various terms, just to give some clarification to be able to follow the conversation a little bit. But this is just like, it feels like just a raw Zoom recording of a training set, like a lead director or like a veteran anime industry person teaching a newcomer about just this entire process, literally all of it. Obviously not like all of it in 1 hour, but like nothing's off the table. There's the last 15 minutes of this video covers like saving it in the right formats. Oh, is it JPEG? Or they actually give like the good explanation of why you would save these images as JPEGs instead of PNGs. It's because they're going to be edited over a lot. It's not the final thing with what they're sending, and they're lower file sizes and everything. So it's like there's nuances to all of this. It's all translated. It's all like candid, including like Genga's like, do you understand that? It's like, oh, one more time, or I didn't quite get that, or like asking questions, or like, and being corrected. Like this in this particular video, it's like Genga-chan has created this bit of animation, I think, for an eye catch, and director is just giving her all these notes, and just the vulnerability of that, like not just like not just, it really is just, I don't know what I was going to say, not just, but really the thing about that's so remarkable is that like the willingness, the vulnerability that this demands, that like, posting this sort of like intimate meeting publicly of like, really correcting this stuff and giving advice, and none of it's like mean or anything like that. I think the director does an incredible job giving clear, adequate feedback. Plenty of positive reinforcement along the way. Genga-chan being receptive and everything. But like, you could tell that she's shy, right? Like you could tell that it's sort of like, it can be kind of awkward and a little embarrassing. But this is so valuable for not just like an audience that maybe is in the industry themselves and is, trying to learn this process along with her. But even just for a layman like myself that's never going to get into this, because you realize just how difficult this is. How, maybe it's a little, it seems very daunting. They say at one point, like, it seems very complicated. And like, but just explaining these little details and stuff, like, oh, they mark the keyframes as circles and the in-betweens as triangles. Explaining the difference of like it's understanding the fear of like, oh, as an animator, you're worried about sending it to an in-betweener because you're worried of how this will turn out because it's out of your control. When you're animating something, you have such a personable. It's easy to feel so attached to it because you've taken so much time to do this thing, so much time and focus and everything, and then to have another person like add stuff in between can feel kind of intimidating. So it's sort of like giving the in-betweener the best chance to have the to realize the vision that you had for the animation, and also just giving the difference of like and just like the making it less intimidating to send it to an in-betweener, where they clarify what do you send to an in-betweener, what should you not expect an in-betweener to do. And the two things is you should not expect an in-betweener to draw something that was not there. So they expect a pendulum. So it's the best brilliant analogy from director. Think of a pendulum, and then you draw like the two things in the ends, and you expect the in-betweener to draw what's in the middle. Don't expect them to draw a completely different shape, like a star or something. If it's supposed to change halfway, you have to draw that. The in-betweener's not going to know to do that. They're going to be like, oh yeah, obviously I draw a circle there. So like sudden changes in between, like the in-between's like you just have to add a new frame at that point if it changes. And I really, again, this is leaving this sort of thing in, it's showing that it's not scripted, and it is a little like vulnerable. It's showing like a really intense vulnerability where like the director is like, what do you think's the other reason why we other thing you don't expect in-betweeners to do? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, that's really simple, try. And he's like, I have no idea. Even just like that, like as a video editor, if you're trying to make something like concise or whatever, you would cut that part out, right? You just like, the other reason is da. But like this interplay with the key animator here was just so valuable because it's showing that it feels like a genuine lecture. It feels like a genuine like learning process. Even when I'm not touching this program, it's all Japanese, and I've never even remotely tried something like this. So a lot of it flies over my head, but a lot of the stuff. The other reason is when a shape is too complicated. So the skirt in the in this key animation, the way it moves and stuff is just so complicated. You can't expect the in-betweener to fill in this gap. So it's like you kind of have to fill it in yourself in that instance. It's like, wow. Or stuff like that, I guess. Like, there's various different solutions and everything. Yeah, just everything like that was just so valuable and interesting. Man. No, yeah, but like I think it literally just started like 4 months ago, Let's Make an Eye Catch and everything. So they've just been working on that slowly and meeting and every so often, and yeah, gosh. Love it. Just wanted to mention that because it's just incredible. Yeah, to end that on Digest. Wow. All right, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.